Great. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, those of us who are just coming onto the call. We are delighted to be talking to you about the MA in Art and Business. We'll give fuller introductions to ourselves shortly, but I'm Tom, and I'm one of the co-leads on the program.
I'm Stephanie, and I'm another co-lead of the program.
And I'm Dirk. I'm the convener of the module that is being offered by the Business School of King's College.
Yes, we are. Sorry, Anna.
No, I was just going to say I won't be speaking until later, but I'm Anna on the admissions team.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. It's very great to have you. We're very exciting to tell you more about the Art and Business program as it will in September 2026 go into its second iteration of the course, which we're running, obviously, with our first cohort at the moment. And I believe I'm in charge of moving the slides. So I think we're just going to get through to our more fuller introductions. As you know, I'm Dr. Stephanie Diekfoss. I'm a senior lecturer in art history at the Courtauld Institute of Art and one of the co-conveners of the program. I'm an art historian, but have worked in the commercial art market for over a decade, and I'm very pleased that I was able to join the Courtauld in order to develop the course in conjunction with Tom. And I'm researching mainly contemporary art markets with a focus on collecting emerging market art fairs and spaces and commerce.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tom. I'm a reader in art and cultural history here at the Courtauld. My training is actually as a historian. So for many years, I was primarily a cultural historian, although I'm also a specialist in the history of collecting. And that's how I became increasingly interested in the art market. My background is very much 18th and 19th century history with a focus on France and Europe. And over the course of my career as an academic, I've also worked quite a lot with heritage organizations, including heritage organizations in Europe, and been involved in exhibitions and in reviewing as well. So I've tried to see the art market from a variety of different perspectives.
And hello, I'm Dirk. I'm professor of organization and practice at King's Business School. I'm a sociologist by background, and my main interests are looking and seeing in museums and galleries. And so for those studies, I collect audiovisual data in various art museums in London and elsewhere, as well as eye tracking data of people while they are exploring galleries. And I'll talk about the module that we are offering on this program later on.
So what's distinctive about this program, unlike some of the other MAs that are offered at the Courtauld, is that it is a 12-month program. So you will be supported over the course of the full year. What that means is, and I'll show you this later, that we have 2 seminars that have got quite intense teaching that run, from autumn through to spring. And then we have a summer period in which you'll do independent research and independent work. We are slightly growing the cohort this year from where we were last year. So we're now looking to take 48 students for 2026. And teaching is split between 2 sites primarily, although most of the Courtauld teaching is taking place at Vernon Square, which is about 10 minutes round the corner from King's Cross, for those of you who know London. The course that is taught at King's is taught at Bush House, which is on the Strand, which is pretty much immediately opposite our historic Somerset House campus. So the Courtauld Galleries and the Courtauld Art Collection is in Somerset House, and just across the way is this amazing building owned by King's, which is Bush House, which is where the business school is located.
Yes, and as you know, we are both co-course leaders, and we very much enjoy both dividing our different specialities, but also frequently coming together. And I think that's really one of the strengths of the module of the Courtauld MA, which is that we consider both the history of the art market, including collecting history, but also art production histories, and the role of intermediaries in the art market historically, but then of course take that forward to current practices of the art market. And we're really interested in students who are able to think about the art market transhistorically, but also of course globally and transgeographically. And I let Dirk sort of just say one sentence about his module before he goes into further detail later.
Yeah, so we at King's Business School, we've been very excited about being asked to offer a module on this program. So that strengthens the relationship between King's College and the Courtauld Institute, which are adjacent to each other on the Aldwych, as Tom just said. So we are natural partners, I think. And King's Business School is offering one 30-credit module that is taught across the 2 teaching terms, so in the autumn and in the spring. And it will cover all areas related to management and business, including finance and accounting, marketing, entrepreneurship, leadership, and innovation. And it's a very practical course, and I'll talk a bit later about it in a bit more detail.
Great, thank you, Dirk. Tom, do you want to get us started here?
Well, yes, so we've given you 5 reasons why you might consider the course and what makes it special. We could have given you 50, but we'll limit ourselves to 5. One of them, as Stephanie has just said, is the fact that we've tried to think about the design of the course transhistorically. So you get a background in thinking about the history of the market, where the institutions came from, how they've evolved, and a kind of global perspective over the past sort of 400, 500 years. But then you also get a kind of critical understanding, a sort of sociological understanding of the art world today. And we really want students to be able to think about that kind of twin perspective and draw connections between the two. As Dirk has nicely outlined, we also have this fantastic taught module at King's Business School. And it should be said that students on the MA also have access to other parts of the King's services that are available. So there is a kind of access to King's Careers Service, King's Libraries, and King's IT support as well. One way that we've designed the 2 core courses is very much that we give lectures, but then we also supplement those lectures with guests from outside, so that you get to hear from art world professionals and people who are working in the art business today at lots of different levels. And so we've tried to kind of complement the kind of theoretical and historical perspective that we bring with giving you access to industry and insights into the art world and art business today. So you get to, opportunities for networking and opportunities to learn about contemporary questions as well.
And in order to sort of ensure that we really adhere also to the Courtauld ethos of small group teaching, really in order to facilitate the discussion between students and between students and the tutors, we are also, for every session we are conducting, not only do we give a lecture, as Tom was saying, and invite a guest, but we also have a complimentary seminar where we divide the cohort up into smaller groups facilitated by a number of tutors and academics at the Courtauld in order to really foster this in-depth engagement with the topic of the week. We further, because we're both very enthusiastic of hands-on teaching and learning, we organize frequent trips and visits. Tom is often taking students to museums, institutions, behind-the-scenes tours and talks with curators about collecting histories and lots of other topics on especially objects from the older periods of art history, while I'm obviously taking students to contemporary sales in auction houses, to commercial galleries, very much focusing contemporary artists. So for example, this autumn term, we took the students all together and paid for by the Courtauld to visit at Frieze art fairs and Frieze masters. And only last Friday, we took the cohort on a trip to Somerset to visit the Bruton location of the global mega gallery House Anvers, where we had a bespoke visit arranged with a number of talks by sales directors and other partners in the gallery.
We also really value the ability to use collections as a teaching resource. As I say, my background is very much in the sort of history of collecting. And it's certainly a great way to enhance the teaching and learning on the course by allowing students to explore a little bit about the history of the collections at the Courtauld. So I've taken students to go and engage with the team at Prints and Drawings to think about the market for works on paper. And obviously Samuel Courtauld himself was putting together that extraordinary collection in the particular circumstances of the interwar period. And so next semester, we'll also be thinking about the art market for Impressionism in the 1920s and 1930s by engaging with works of art in the Courtauld collection. So it's a sort of fantastic extra perspective to be able to look at the works and look at some of the archives related to the works in order to trace these histories. The final feature of the course, I would say, is that we're obviously very keen to give you support through the careers service at the Courtauld. We're working with people within the art world in order to provide mentoring opportunities. And the Courtauld has a very extensive alumni network. You know, many of these visits that Stephanie talked about involve the chance to meet with recent Courtauld graduates or kind of more established Courtauld alumni who are very keen to support the course and keen to meet the new cohort of students. So you'll have lots of opportunities to meet Courtauld alumni over the course of your studies.
And just before we move on, to mention that once a year, we also take the student onto an international trip, equally funded by the fees you're obviously paying if you study with us. And we have selected TEFAF, the art fair in Maastricht in the Netherlands, the leading antiquities, fine art, but also modern and contemporary art fair for a 3-day visit where we really working with students in meeting and engaging with international exhibitors at the fair, thinking about the art fair and antiques fair as a structure, but also devising a program around that visit. So we really want to ensure that your engagement with the industry, but also with research guests really continues throughout the whole year you're with us in London.
So we'll give you a brief glimpse of some of the core modules, and then we'll talk about the elective modules. So there are 3 core modules that span both semesters. So they're taught from September through to the end of March, more or less. I teach the histories of the art market, which thinks about the emergence, as I say, of the institutions which now dominate the art market today, and thinks about where they came from, thinks about how the growth of the art market maps onto bigger histories of capitalism and histories of empire. It looks at how art market institutions and expertise developed over 400 years, and it runs roughly from sort of early modern Antwerp and early modern Italy up to the kind of galleries of the 1980s and the 1990s to give you a sense of, you know, and it's a critical history, but it's a sense of the kind of unfolding of different art market moments and kind of, you know, conflicts over 400 years.
And I'm running the equivalent in the contemporary world today. So my core module is called Understanding the Art Market, where we really try to gain deeper insight in the ecology of the market as it pans out today globally and across different market segments. So we want to not only look at the top end of the market, but also at the lower end of the market, as much as global markets as well as regional markets. So really show you that there are many opportunities to engage with the wider art world across sort of different areas. And I've devised the module into 2 different strands. So in order to really think about how can we approach studying the art market and what different disciplines feature into a greater understanding of thinking about the art market, we start with an approaches group of sessions which think about the use of sociological and anthropological approaches to thinking about the market, followed by also art historical approaches as they cover contemporary art. We are looking at data and the use of data and data reports in the art market, as well as how can financial and economical research support the way we think about the market. So that was a really in-depth, very exciting period of really sort of also supporting students who might not have or who are not coming straight from undergraduate studies to really think about different methods and methodologies. Then the largest part of the module is thinking about the ecology of the art market. So starting with producers and the role of artists in the market, thinking about intermediaries, being it critics and institutions, galleries, auction houses, art advisors, art dealers, and so forth. And of course, not ending, but sort of culminating in the role of the collector today. And then the last slice of the module is really trying to then hone in of current changes and challenges as well as opportunities that we're going through at the moment. We're thinking about the impact of the climate crisis and how the art market can operate more sustainable in this very ecologically volatile environment. We are thinking about, of course, digital revolutions and changes, the role of NFTs, cryptocurrencies, but also, of course, AI and how that will impact the market. And last but not least, interestingly, this year, really the thread that weaves through all the programs, but which we want to focus on still at the end is what is being called the great wealth transfer and the thinking about what will the next generation do with the art market and how might art production and collecting look in the future. And then we hand over to Dirk to tell us more about the business school.
So our module is called The Business of Art, and it's a practical and applied module to introduce you to what it means to work in business. So it's delivered by a team of academics who have expertise in all the various disciplines of management. So management is a wide discipline that is comprised of areas like accounting and finance, marketing, entrepreneurship, strategy, consumer research, branding. And all of this will be covered within this module, but primarily through practical activities, not so much through academic engagement. So in that sense, this module differs from the modules offered by Stephanie and Tom and colleagues at the Courtauld. Also, the module is delivered in workshops. So rather than having the lecture tutorial model that prevails at most universities, we on the master's level move to a workshop model where there will be an element of lecturing, where you are introduced to the topic of the particular session, but then you explore the issues and problems with regards to the management areas through practical activities and find out about them by engaging with case studies or with practical tasks. So the areas covered, as I mentioned, are accounting and finance, but what it all and marketing, entrepreneurship, and so on. But what it all leads up to is you delivering a business plan at the end that is produced by a team of you. So the module starts with sessions on team building and working in a team, managing a team, holding a team together over a sustained period of time. In this case, you have to sustain the team from October until March when you submit your business plan. And then you learn about strategy, the development of a business canvas, and progressively from this develop a business plan that you will deliver by the end of the module at the end of the second term. The second part of the assessment will be a reflective essay where you show how you have engaged with the development of the business plan and how that relates to your academic studies. And I think that's a rough summary of it.
Thank you, Dirk. If I just may add, and maybe you want to expand on that, what I think is really also unique and very special about the module is that, and the course overall, that you have different experts in these topic areas teaching the students. So not, so it's really understanding how the most current thinking around finance or entrepreneurship, leadership, marketing, as we said, is what is currently debated within the discipline. And I think our association with the business school really lives off this access that students have to lecturers from these different subcategories of the large business school.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm only the course convener, and I teach very little on this module, but I bring a team to the module where the experts from the business school in accounting and finance, strategy, marketing, and so on. They will deliver those workshops, and they have a long-standing experience in developing and delivering workshop for purposes like this. So yeah, it's a multidisciplinary area what you are engaging in when you are studying management, and therefore it is advisable that the various areas are taught by experts in those different fields. That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and it's beautiful because they're all very passionate about art and culture. So
Yeah.
that's very exciting to see.
So we've got these three core modules that are each for 30 credits. So they're equally weighted, the contemporary, the historical, and the business of art. But then for 15 credits each semester, you will do one of the topic modules. At the moment, there are 3 topic modules that are running, elective modules. We hope that next year there will be a 4th, because I should add that there will be another member of staff who's also being employed by the Courtauld to teach on this program as well. But of the modules, we can talk about the ones that are running at the moment. Mine, unsurprisingly, has Napoleon on the slide. It's called Collecting in Times of Crisis. And this is a course looking at the development of the art market in London in response to episodes of violence and sort of episodes of crisis politically. So we think about the impact of the French Revolution on bringing paintings to London. We then go on to think about the colonial wars of the 19th century. We think about looting in places like China, or in what was Abyssinia, now Ethiopia. And then we end by thinking about questions about Nazi spoliation and the legacies for the art market today. So it thinks about kind of the art market at moments, as I say, of maximum pressure and sensitivity. It thinks about the regulation around cultural heritage and how it's been protected, and the ongoing challenge around the trafficking of illegal works of art or the restitution of works of art. So it's very much focused on cultural heritage. The second, if I can, I'll just introduce, because he's not here, we have an art law module as well that's being taught by our colleague, Carl Leyden. And in the course of his art law module, he introduces students to all of the key areas of art law. So you might think about copyright, we might think about intellectual property, art crime, bailment, and so on. And it's a course which Kyle leads, but which he also brings in external experts to come and speak on. So on tax law, for instance, he brings in outside perspectives as well. There's also the chance as part of your assessment for that to do a moot as well as an assessment. So there's also a chance for you to develop a case, really, that you make an argument for. And it's a fantastic, I have to say, we attended last week to see the students do it, and it was a fantastic opportunity for them and an alternative kind of mode of assessment. And we were amazed at how quickly they kind of learned many of these legal concepts and how much they kind of enjoyed throwing themselves into the challenge.
Yes, and my topic module at the moment, at least, is called Revisiting the Art Fair. And it's really taking the art fair as one and probably the most successful sales platform globally for galleries to find buyers for their either primary or secondary market works, as an example to really think through the development of the art market in the second half of the 20th and the early parts of the 21st century, where we are looking at it partly historical, so from the early beginnings in the late 60s and the Kunstmarkt in Cologne, the art, what has then been renamed into Art Cologne, to, of course, looking at more recent global art fairs that have been and are springing up everywhere. And obviously, I need to change the title because the latest won't be Tokyo Gendai, but probably Art Basel, Doha, or Frieze. Frieze in Abu Dhabi. So we are thinking then, apart from an historical understanding, we're looking at the typology of the art fair and really thinking about the rise of multinational corporations on one hand, but also the excitement about experiential engagements in live events through small boutique fairs that really hone in on individual objects and individual collectors, from also specialized fairs to really sort of survey fairs that show you art from maybe antiquities to today.
So as we said, there are 2 semesters that are based on very intensive teaching, and we'll show you a sample of that in a minute. But then in the summer period, we support you to do a piece of independent work. And there you have a choice. You can either do a sort of classic dissertation, which is a sort of individually authored dissertation on either a historical or a contemporary subject, and that's a dissertation of 10,000 words. Or you can apply to be considered to do a consultancy project. And the consultancy project is something that's designed in conversation with a variety of real world clients. We have a variety of art businesses of different scales and different sizes who have a particular problem that they would like students to come and act as consultants for. And then you can work in small groups with that real world business, doing the research in relation to their problem, pitching to them some sort of the results of that research and suggestions, and then writing a reflective essay afterwards. So there are these 2 different forms of assessment that are available for the summer period. And I don't know, I mean, Stephanie always, probably her heart sinks at this very ugly slide. But this very ugly slide nonetheless has some useful information on it, hopefully, that you can see a little bit then the overall structure of the course with the 2 semesters of 11 weeks. There's a reading week in the middle of both of them, but it's sort of 10 weeks teaching both semesters, and then the summer period. And you'll see there are the 3 core modules. You do one of the topic modules, and there are the assessments there on the right. All I would add in relationship to this slide is just to underscore the fact that this is a course which does mean that it's usually taught across 4 days a week. It is really quite an intense and demanding course. I think it's a very exciting course. You're going to learn a huge amount, you're going to meet a huge number of people, but it does require a commitment on behalf of the students. Because even within the core modules, as we suggested earlier, there's both a lecture component, a seminar component, a guest. Sometimes there's an optional visit as well. This is a kind of intensive course, but it does mean that you get a real immersion into research and also into kind of, the art economy and the art environment in London more broadly.
Maybe it's just fair to say that those 4 days are not full days, but that each core module is allocated 3 hours per week. But it gives us options to add the occasional optional engagement activity beyond the core teaching hours. It's probably also important to say that we encourage students, of course, with a dissertation project to consider doing topics that might be related to non-UK based or London research tasks. Therefore, they might wish to conduct those studies, being them archival studies or interviews or reading and reflection and observation in whatever country that is. But we are still running in the summer period, so between April and probably early July, a number of skills workshops, including student presentation symposiums. So in contrast maybe to other courses at the Courtauld, there is still ongoing student-facing activity in the summer period before we then break off to you to finish your final project independently for submission in early September.
Some of this Stephanie has already covered, so we may not need to dwell on it, purely to say that, as I say, there is the option of many visits. My topic module is entirely built around visits. When we're thinking about the effect of the French Revolution or we're thinking about the Napoleonic Wars, we go and visit a collection in London so that you can do object-based learning and look at the archives there. In addition to these visits to art fairs that Stephanie mentioned, and also some visits outside of London. So some of these things are integral to teaching, but then there are also that are kind of optional excursions that you can take advantage of if you would like to join us. But the most important, I would say, is in terms of a big, whole cohort visit, is the freeze trip that takes place in the first semester. And then in the second semester, as Stephanie said, we will be taking everybody to TIFAF, which is the great European art fair, which takes place in Maastricht, and where again, they are laying on a kind of special reception for us, basically, in order to try and kind of, in order to kind of welcome us to the fair and make us understand how, how these affairs are put together.
Yes. So, and I guess it's important to talk a little bit about why might you want to study that? Why might you want to study this now? Why do you want to study this at the Courtauld? And I hope the latter we've already convincingly made a case for. I guess that the way we teach the art and business course is very much based on a number of core principles that really sit well within the context of the Courtauld as an institute, but also as a teaching and learning galleries. We know we've experienced this. Research skills are not only foundational in research itself, and we very much welcome anyone who might want to conduct postgraduate further research and write a PhD with either of us or someone else at the Courtauld, but they are really important also in the commercial art sector. So it's not only critical and analytical thinking, but really object-based research, being it for gallery catalogs, for auction catalogs, for institutional research, thinking about possible provenance research or restitutions information. So really understanding how to research not only the art market, but the importance of object-based research in connection to the art market is something that we're really keen on ensuring that you develop that. And I guess the other element which we've talked about is that we really firmly believe that historical perspectives really feed into the contemporary market and also in contemporary innovations. And if you have an understanding both of historical innovation and current maybe needs, you're really able to think about, hang on, they did that in the 19th century, and that was a really brilliant idea when they charged entrance fee to commercial galleries, for example. Maybe this is something I might want to think about. So it really gives you a much more holistic oversight into the histories of the art market, and also hopefully lets you see through that everything that every year the art market journalists claim is brand new and has never happened, and no one ever thought about art collecting as a financial asset. You will learn that obviously nothing really is ever new. So, but we are both also in the historical and the contemporary elements of the course very interested in thinking beyond the European American context and into both historical and contemporary facets of globalization. And of course, the importance always of technological innovation, both historical through printing presses or transport or the arrival of the telephone to the digital revolution we see today.
And on the remainder of the slide, you'll see, I mean, the value, I think, of studying this is that we're in a moment of great change in the art market. Many people obviously feel that we're going through a kind of period of transition. And I think in that transition and in that reskilling, resilience is particularly important. And we hope that this is a course that encourages you to be kind of versatile and to learn a variety of skills, to approach questions from a variety of perspectives, and as a result fosters that resilience in a time of change. And equally, the innovation and the entrepreneurial skills are at the heart, really, of what the module at King's is going to deliver and cultivate in the students. Alumni is here, and I know that I think this is the next slide, Stephanie, is a little bit of a connection to the alumni. These are some of the very illustrious alumni, of course, that have gone through the Courtauld and who've gone on to carve, very important roles for themselves in the art world, whether that be, as running fairs or as kind of art lawyers. But I would say that through the guests that supplement the core lectures, you'll also get the chance to hear from people who work in lots of different parts of the art world. So whether that be art insurance, whether that be art advisors, whether that be people who work as auctioneers, whether that be dealers. We really want you to get a sense of the whole ecology of the art world, and also to learn from people at different levels, and that means both very senior, very established people, but also people who've recently graduated from the Courtauld, and they can talk about their experiences and how they found their way in the art world. So we really want to try and kind of bring a variety of voices into the classroom, so you get a sense of the richness of the art world and the way that it's changing.
And I think because we're anyway already out of time, I'm delighted to that we can hand over now to Anna Aplin from the admissions and enrollment team, who will tell you more about the practicalities of how you can go about applying to our course. Anna, just tell me when you want me to move on the slides, please.
That's great. Thank you, Stephanie. That's brilliant. Yeah, so as Stephanie said, my name's Anna. I work in the admissions team as an admissions and enrollment administrator. So I'm going to be walking you through kind of the admissions process and what's kind of required in the application. And I'll touch briefly on kind of scholarships and accommodation at the end. But that's great. If we can get the next slide, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, so starting with some key dates, applications are now open, so you can apply from now onwards, and the application deadline is on the 12th of January. This is what's called an equal consideration deadline. So if you apply by the 12th of January, we will aim to issue decisions from the 27th of February. If you apply after that deadline, then those kind of applications will be assessed on a rolling basis and outcomes will be issued similarly. So that will be dependent on a number of factors, such as kind of how many places are left, that sort of thing. So we really do encourage you to get your application in by that 12th of January. I'll touch on it later, but our scholarship deadline for applying for our various scholarships is also the 12th of January. So that's kind of another motivating factor to submit your application on time if you'd like to apply for both. Just to briefly touch on the fees. So for the upcoming kind of next year, the home fees will be 24,750 and the overseas fees will be 38,500. This is quite a common question, so I thought I would just put it in here. There is no application fee, so when you submit your application, you don't have to pay. But if you are successful in securing an offer, you do need to pay a deposit to kind of secure that offer and kind of confirm that you're going to be taking it up. But that's great. Go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so in terms of our entry requirements, for a UK qualification, where maybe if you're from the UK or you've just completed your kind of BA here with us, we are looking for a good 2-1 in your bachelor's degree. If you completed your degree overseas, then we're looking for an equivalent to a good 2-1. So a very common example would be a UK applicant. We would be looking for a cumulative GPA of 3.3 or above. However, I will say that we have a new website called International Entry Requirements, which goes into a little bit more detail on the equivalences for lots of different countries. So I would really recommend having a look there. And then if you had any questions, you could just get in touch with the admissions team and we can kind of talk about your particular circumstances. As it mentions there, we do welcome applicants with other forms of academic and relevant professional experience. So the above is kind of what we typically see successful students having. But if you maybe don't quite fit that mold, that doesn't mean that you can't apply. We would recommend reaching out to us, the admissions team, to discuss it a bit further. But that's just kind of a guideline on the typical successful candidates kind of grades. The other entry requirement we have is English language. So if your first language is not English, we do need to receive some evidence to kind of support your English language level. There are a number of different ways that you can meet that requirement. The two English language tests that we accept are IELTS and the Cambridge English test. There are a couple of other ways, such as if you had your BA from the UK institution, that would be another way of meeting that requirement. But we would recommend having a look at our English language requirement website as it goes into a little bit more detail, and again reaching out if you had any questions about your particular circumstances. And then I do just want to flag there that applicants may be invited to interview, but that's on a case-by-case basis, so it's not kind of a general rule. Can I get the next slide if that's okay? Great, thank you. So now I'm just going to talk in a bit more detail about the individual documents that we're looking for, starting with the personal statement. So it's a 600-word limit, and it allows you to kind of talk about yourself and your experience. So you can outline why you particularly want to study at the Courtauld, any previous relevant study or projects, or maybe your BA dissertation, it's in a relevant topic, any essays that you've done in your previous degree or degrees, any work experience that you have that you think makes you a strong candidate. We're also looking for any key skills that you have that are related to the chosen programme, so art and business in this case, and any interests that you have around the programme. And we're also just looking for you to talk about why you think you in particular stand out as a candidate for the programme, and any career aspirations that you have in relation kind of after completing the programme. As it says there, it's not prescriptive. You don't have to kind of stick to it line by line, but it should give you kind of a strong foundation to build your own more personalised personal statement. Yeah, that's great. If we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so we're also looking for a written work sample. Preferably, this would be a chapter from your BA dissertation in an art historical or historical subject or related subject. We're looking for a word limit between 3,000 and 5,000 words. If you haven't completed your BA dissertation, or that was maybe a little while ago now, you can submit an essay of similar length, or even 2 essays, if you think that would be a stronger kind of sort of example for you. But just make sure that combined you don't exceed the word limit. The key thing we're really looking at is if those samples demonstrate your capacity to write academic English. So it doesn't even have to be on a relevant topic if that's not something that you can provide. We're just looking for kind of your academic writing style. If you do submit kind of an extract or a chapter, please do just provide us with some context on what we're looking for, so our reviewers know what they're reading. It's really helpful. And then if you do want to submit something that's maybe not in English, that's okay, but we do require an English language translation again, so our reviewers know what they're looking at. That's great. If we could get the next slide, that would be great. Thank you. And then another really important document that we need is your academic transcript or transcripts. So we need all transcripts that you have from all previous degrees. What we're really looking for there is, in particular, your final overall grade, if you've already completed your degree. It might sound a little bit silly, but sometimes some transcripts don't have that on the transcript. And so we would really just ask you to check ahead of time to see if that final grade is on the transcript, and if it's not, if you could request kind of a official letter from the university that has that information, and just submit that with your transcript, because we do kind of need that information to assess you against our entry requirements. We're looking for electronic copies, so that could be directly from your university, or if you've only got a physical hard copy of your transcript, you can scan that in and send it to us that way. If you've not completed your degree, so if you're currently doing your BA, for example, that's okay. You can send us in an interim transcript on the understanding that if you were to secure an offer, it would be a condition of that offer for you to submit your official transcript to show that you've met our entry requirements. And again, similar with the written work, if your transcripts are not in English, we do need a certified English translation. So that's just something to be aware of now, because it can sometimes take a little while for that to come through. So something to think about now if you think that's going to be relevant to your application. But that's great. If I could get the next slide. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, so academic references. So ideally, this will be 2 academic referees or references, with ideally one being your BA dissertation supervisor. However, if this is not possible, so for example, you kind of did your BA a little while ago, we can accept a professional reference instead. But they will still need to kind of provide an assessment of your intellectual abilities and potential to learn. I will also say for kind of programs like art and business, for example, if you've worked in the sector, you may feel that a professional reference would strengthen your application. So you might, for example, want to use one academic reference and one professional reference, and that's okay. It's just something for you to think about, how you think you'll best kind of make a case for yourself. Just in terms of the admin side of things, when you submit your application, an automatic reference request is sent to your referees. So we do ask you to contact your referees ahead of time, preferably 4 to 6 weeks in advance, to let them know that you'll be nominating them, so they kind of know what to expect and they have some time to prepare. Because if your referees aren't in, say, for example, you submit on the final day, on the 12th of January, it does happen, it's not necessarily a problem if they don't submit it straight away on the 12th, but after roughly kind of 5 working days or so, if we still haven't received your reference, that's when it might be the case that your application will be reviewed without references. So it's really in your best kind of interest to let them know ahead of time so they can submit it as soon as possible. It's just, again, something to think about ahead of time. That's great. If I could get the next slide, Stephanie. Thank you. And then just a couple of last documents that we need. So we need scans of all of your passports. So that might be, you might just have one, you might have multiple. We need everything. So just kind of send that in to us. Also a CV, that's also really helpful kind of in conjunction with your personal statement to kind of show your past experience, work experience, academic experience, anything else. We do just ask that you include relevant dates and locations in any entries in your CV. Just gives us a bit more context so we know, again, what we're looking at. And then if you have any previous UK visas, so for example, you've done your BA in the UK and you had a student visa for that, we do, again, just need a scan of any of those documents. I do want to refer you to our postgraduate application guidance and FAQ page because it goes into a lot more detail about everything I've just talked about, all the different documents. So I'd recommend having a look there. And then if you had any questions about your particular circumstance, you can reach out to the admissions team and we can always have a chat with you about that. That's great. If I can go to the next slide.
Yeah, and now before we move on, can I just make two comments that might be quite relevant just for our program specifically? One is that we are indeed encourage students who might have finished their undergraduate degree a little while ago and maybe have done something else or thinking about a career change or have had some work experience. We have a number of students this year, and we think it really adds, of course, to the cohort, just because we talked so much about, interim transcripts that if you have, finished your undergrad studies a while ago, please feel still encouraged absolutely to apply. And the second point, I just wanted to reiterate that we are also very happy to discuss applications from students with maybe more, not unusual in the grander scheme of things, but beyond humanities degrees. So we have a number of former students in the program who did law, who did engineering, who did economics, also artistic programs such as either fine art or graphic design or illustration. We're always really happy to hear from anyone with these backgrounds who would like to apply. And if you're in doubt, you can always reach out by email to either Tom and I to discuss your interest further.
That's great. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, so now just a couple more things from me, starting with scholarships and funding. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the deadline for applying for all Courtauld linked MA funding is also the 12th of January, so kind of the same day as the programme application. The scholarships that are sort of relevant for this programme in particular there are a couple of them, or a few of them actually, starting with the New Voices scholarship. So that is that's up to 6 scholarships of £15,500, and it's assessed on a widening participation criteria. So it's a large range of criteria. I would encourage you to have a look at our website because it goes into a lot of detail about all the different criteria. So I would have a look there to see if you think that you meet that any of the criteria there, and if you do, go ahead and submit an application. And then we also have the Courtauld Postgraduate Study Scholarships. So there are a number of different scholarships there, and again I would encourage you to have a look on the website, but two that I just wanted to highlight because they're particularly relevant for the MA Art and Business are firstly the Convocation, which is if I'm saying that wrong, Trust Scholarship. So that's open to home students specifically, and it's one award of full UK fees for an MA Art and Business student. So that one in particular might be relevant for you. And then the other one is the Courtauld MA Art and Business Scholarship, which is again open to home students, and it's 2 awards of UK fees plus a stipend up to £16,000. So those ones in particular you might want to have a look at and submit an application for. But there are some other ones that are kind of specific to topic areas or even nationality of applicant. So again, I would really encourage you to have a look at the full range. And when you submit your application, it's the same form for both of those kind of groups of scholarships. You're able to indicate which ones you believe you're eligible for when you apply. And then kind of moving on, we've also just wanted to highlight the UK and US loans. So that's for UK students and US students. They're both government programs, so you would need to apply directly with the relevant government, but we have some information on the website about both of those in case you want to have a look and kind of see the various eligibility criteria, that sort of thing. And then lastly, there's the Alumni Loyalty Scheme. So if you've done a degree with us previously, maybe you did your BA with us, then you'd be eligible for a 10% alumni discount. You don't have to do anything for that. It's automatically applied, but it is just nice to know about that ahead of time. And then, like I was mentioning before, everything is on our website, the Postgraduate Funding Scholarships website. So please do have a thorough look at that. And then if you had any questions about your particular circumstances, you can reach out to us and the admissions team, and we can have a chat about that. The last thing I do just want to say about funding is please do keep in mind that funding for postgraduate study can be limited. This is kind of not just within the Courtauld, but sort of across the board, really, for postgraduate study. It's kind of in this current sort of climate environment that we're in. There are a number of scholarships, as I've touched on, but there may be kind of people who submit applications who are very eligible, but there's just kind of a finite amount of funding, so not everyone will secure it. We don't want to discourage you from applying from our courses or from our scholarships at all, please do. But we just want to kind of manage expectations and just kind of say, as it says there, kind of most students will need to use different funding sources to cover the full costs of study, kind of fees and living costs as well. So just want to kind of say that now. That's great. If we could move on to the next slide, it's kind of the last thing from me. Thank you. Okay, so accommodation. Applications to live in halls will be open from February. There are 3 halls to be aware of. So there's Duchy House, which is the Courtauld accommodation. There's the Intercollegiate Halls of Residence, which is the University of London. And then there's Canada Water and Angel Lane, which is King's accommodation. I will say that each of those have slightly different contract lengths. So some of them are 9 months, some of them are 12 months, and some, I believe one of them is both 9 months and 12-month contracts. So I would again recommend having a look on the website and seeing what kind of fits your circumstance and the program, this 12-month program that you're applying for. And then you can contact our accommodation team at halls applications or hall applications 2627 at courtauld.ac.uk with any queries about your circumstances and kind of how to apply. The last thing I'll say is similar to scholarships. We do also encourage our students to kind of look broadly for accommodation and look at external options as well as the options on the screen there to kind of meet their needs in terms of accommodation. But that's great. That's everything from me. I'll hand back to our program leads to kind of handle the Q&A section. But yeah, thank you.
Great, fantastic, Anna. Thank you so much. It was really insightful and informative and very concise. So yeah, please make use. I think the source of knowledge seems to be our website, so you can find everything in greater detail here as well. I'm now going to stop sharing so it allows all of us to see already existing questions in the Q&A, which we'll be going through one after the other, reading them out loud so everyone knows what has been asked, and obviously feel free to add further questions. I also see we didn't have a slide with our email addresses, but they are on the website. So please do feel free to reach out to either Tom and I by direct email. Anna, I believe, can be reached at pgadmissions@courtauld.ac.uk. And maybe Dirk, you can also share your email if anyone has any specific questions.
Sure.
Great. Thank you, Dirk. I should say I've started replying to some of the question and answers. So if you've already asked, have a look and see if the answer is up there. But if not, we'll just start reading out the ones that are kind of have come in recently. So one question here is, could you tell me what the consultancy project is about? Will we be put in touch with the gallery, or do we have to make up a fictional project? Stephanie, do you want to take that one?
Yes, absolutely. As Tom, I think, said already in the slides, it might not be a gallery. It might be a gallery or an auction house or an art advisory business, or maybe even an artist association. We are really keen to work with a broad scope of clients, but it will always be a real life client with a real life project. So it's not a fictional project that you need to develop. It is a project that is like in a real consultancy situation being brought to us by a client.
Great. There are 2 questions here that are sort of related, really, which are about how willing are alumni to connect with students and work with them, and also a question about mentorship opportunities and how hands-on the careers service is in terms of giving advice about careers and counselling. I mean, I would say that you will get lots of contact with alumni, as I say, through the way that the course is designed and through so many of the visits. You'll also be encouraged by the Careers Service here to reach out to alumni. You know, there are various events that the Courtauld holds throughout the year for its alumni network, which as students you'll also be able to attend. We've had lots of expressions of goodwill from individual alumni who also want to support the program and are keen to come and speak and keen to speak to students. So I think you will get the opportunity to meet alumni, as I say, at lots of different levels. And the Careers Service does have an initial meeting in the first semester. And what we're trying to do with Careers is then kind of create follow-on sessions that are sort of tailored around the needs of the specific cohort. So there was a question in the chat earlier about international students, and that's something we're very mindful of, and whether we can devise a careers event to think about the opportunities for the art world beyond the UK, and as an international student, you know, how you might build a career outside the UK. Equally, students will have access to the careers service at King's as well, to an extent, not just at the Courtauld. So there is a kind of, there's an extra level of support that's available there. There's a very practical question, Anna, for you here about what is the deposit amount?
Thank you. I will just need to double check this because I know that it's increasing from last year. So I don't want to give any wrong information at this point. But yes, it was previously kind of 500 for home students and 1,000 for overseas. But it is going up. So I just need to double check that. And we could hopefully get that on the website for people who are interested in that information. But yeah, sorry, that's not a more clear answer at this stage.
There are a number of questions around generally work opportunities, the careers team, and also work experience. So what I would say is, starting with the application program and work or internship experiences, I guess we can assume that application to the course is quite competitive. So we obviously don't expect, and we are very happily taking students straight from undergraduate programs. And so obviously then age dependent, you only might have a limited amount of being able to secure any work experience. But what we do want to see is an evidenced passion and interest in the study of art markets and art and business more generally. That might be through volunteering opportunities, to essay topics, to other extracurricular activities. They can be small, they can be large. That doesn't matter, but I would say that a generic art history degree with a wish to work in the wider art world might just not be as competitive as other applications who are just able to evidence their interest in more greater detail. In terms of the possibility of, in terms of time commitment of doing internships during the program, I would say that a one-day internship during a week, so if you work maybe for 3 months, 1 days a week, or maybe even Friday and Saturday, is something, if you are working hard, you are definitely able to be doing. But obviously you can also, and I think a lot of our international students are considering trying to get more work experiences in the summer months, where they then can work part-time for an internship while also working on their final dissertation. And lastly, in terms of career service, I think you get the best of both worlds. So access to the King's career service, which is entirely, as far as I'm aware, online, gives you a maybe more, you know, video tutorials, sort of hands-off way to engage with the career service, while our career service is very present, face-to-face, one-on-one. So it is indeed very hands-on. You can make I think up to 2 appointments with the career service and discuss your needs, being it interview training or CV writing, CV checking. And it's important to say that the Courtauld offers career service up to 2 years after you have graduated. So you can, even if you're not a Courtauld student anymore, always come back and seek further advice.
There is another practical question, Anna, in case you haven't seen it, related to when will students be notified if they've been selected for one of the scholarships?
That is a good question. So it will be, I believe the plan is for it to be at roughly the same time as the offer, because they're kind of lining up the application and offer process. That is dependent on a number of factors, but I believe that is the current plan.
Wonderful. And there are questions here about what sort of information people would expect to see on a CV. I think Stephanie's spoken to that in terms of you need to be evidence your kind of commitment to studying the commercial art world. It might not be a paid position or a paid internship, but we do want to see something that goes beyond just having studied art history or another humanities degree. There's a question about the average age breakdown of the cohort, which I think is interesting. And exactly as to Stephanie's point, we are receiving applications from some people who've come very recently out of undergraduate degrees or out of other master's programs, but also people who've done other careers and then returning to us. So I would say we've got quite a broad range of students on the program at the moment, ranging from their kind of early 20s up to their mid 30s. And actually we'd be very open to kind of applications from people who can bring other perspectives and other experiences into the classroom. There's a question about dissertation titles. Sadly, no one's done a dissertation yet. That's it's the first year, is this year. So, you know, you could check in with us when we've had a sense of what they want to write on. But we really encourage you to write on a subject you're passionate about, whether that be historical or contemporary. You know, this is a fantastic opportunity for you to do a piece of independent research, which picks up on a question. I don't know, Stephanie, you want to answer this. There's a question here about what's the benefit of doing a sort of art and business MA as opposed to an MA that's simply focused on art history?
On art history?
Yes, or a kind of, or
sorry,
an
MBA
MBA.
question.
Oh, I see, an MBA focused on art. Yeah.
I think that that lies really in the beholder. I think there are pros and cons to all of these different forms of degrees. Obviously, an MBA, as I have an MBA, so it's usually geared towards more experienced students who already work in the sector, because it's an executive program. I do also believe that MBAs focused in art are rather rare. I know only of a couple of them. So I think we obviously, the masters at the Courtauld is not an executive program. There are other executive programs around cultural leadership. So I think there are really different categories and obviously different price points. So I think in a way they cannot be compared. In terms of art history, we get that asked a lot. Again, it's a very, I guess, a complex question. I would say that obviously, if you study art history, you have a year of where you focus on a very specific realm of art history, being it Persian miniatures or I don't know, the body of the artist in the second half of the 20th century. Our program is definitely more vocational, gives you a broader overview, but obviously doesn't train you becoming a specialist in an art historical subject area. I would also think that having a degree in art and business with business in the title might make you potentially less, but potentially more attractive for institutions to then work in a non-for-profit space or museum. But then it depends if you wanted to work in a press or sponsorship department, it might make you very attractive. So I think you should really go with what you think you're most passionate about. And if you want to, I know actually quite a lot of people, not that we encourage that, but who did another art history degree either prior or after an art business degree on different institutions I taught on before, because they either felt after thinking about the business, they want to go back thinking about art really specifically, or vice versa. So I think these are really decisions that you need to think about. And if you want to have a greater discussion, as I say, please reach out and we're happy to set up a separate Zoom call.
There's a question for Dirk, actually. Since there is no proof of analytical or quantitative skills, they're asking how important the kind of quantitative dimension is to the business of art module that's taught at King's.
It's not important at all. I mean, King's Business School is a social science-oriented business school anyway. So except for subjects like economics and econometrics. Those would be quantitatively oriented. The sessions we are teaching and the assessment does not require higher maths or any skills like that at all.
Great, thank you. What is left here?
I think in terms of how many applications we're expecting to receive, as we said, the course is in its second year, so I think it would be futile to speculate too much. But if it's similar to last year, we know that it's a competitive process. And then, Anna, there is a question for you about when the scholarship applications will be decided upon.
I think we briefly touched on that a moment ago, but yeah, just to reiterate, it's kind of roughly around the same time that offers are kind of issued. So sort of, I think the current plan is that will be kind of roughly end of February, early March. Yeah, I think they're kind of going to be done in conjunction with each other. Yeah.
There's also a qualifications question, Anna, here. On a previous visa document, if a student had undertaken GCSEs and A-level studies in the UK as well as undergraduate study, do they upload all visa copies or just the most recent university one as an e-visa?
I would say to give us as much information as possible. So if you have all of those documents and you're able to send us a scan of all of them, then that's always going to be best for us. If you have any questions about your particular circumstance, you can either get in touch with PG Admissions or our international team, who in particular look at kind of visa questions, and they can be reached at international@courtauld.ac.uk. But yes, as much information as possible is the go-to answer on that. Thanks.
There are maybe just to slowly draw that to a close, unless there are any further urgent questions, please type them now. A number of questions around the CV and how you stand out. I think in terms of CV, it's like you would write a CV for any job applications. We want to see anything that you think is interesting about you, from your hobbies to your skills to I don't know what you've activities you might have done in schools. Obviously, any type of work experience, being it bar work or I don't know, a gap year and you traveling the world. It really it's I think it should be sort of in that sense a professional CV. And in terms of standing out, I think we are looking for rounded candidates, and we are very keen on devising, but in as best as possible, putting a cohort together that works as an overall group, because we know that you will hopefully be going on to be peers and alumni of the Art and Business program for life. So I guess it's thinking about what you believe is unique to you that you can also bring to the program, and how the other students, both on a professional but also on a personal level, can benefit from you, being it your teamwork or your empathy, but also I would say we do like people who have specific interests. So we have applicants who did classics in their first degree, but really want to think about how they can get into the antiquities market. And we had an application from an artist who wanted to go into artist book publishing, who then decided not to come. But so I guess it's thinking about who you are as a person and where your interests are that will make you stand out automatically, because that will be really visible throughout everything you submit, from statement to your essays to your CV, and this is what we want.
Can I also just correct one misunderstanding that popped up here, in case anybody else is under this impression? The system now is that if you apply to the MA Art and Business, you can also apply to other programs at the Courtauld. It just means that they need to be different applications. So whereas in the past there was a single application that covered both, am I right in thinking, Anna, that students can apply to MA History of Art as well?
I would say that the way that we're approaching it this year is that it is kind of more focused on picking one program that you're really enthusiastic about and submitting an application for that one. When you submit your application, there's a tick box that you can tick that says, if I'm not successful in securing an offer for this program, then I would like to be considered for other programs. And that means that you'll be kind of considered for other programs and what might kind of fit your your application. We are looking into potentially allowing a second application, and as Tom says, that would be an entirely separate application, so kind of documents, references all again. It's not currently possible, but it's something that we're kind of looking at. But at the moment, I would encourage you to kind of apply for the program that you're most enthusiastic about. In this case, that would be our business, but yeah, that's how we currently stand. Thank you.
Great. I think unless there's, yes, as I said before, I think I shared now with everyone our email addresses. And I think as we are out of time, we'll really encourage you to contact the most relevant person after this webinar with any further questions. And we are really grateful that you made the time to attend today. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you or reading your applications in due course. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you very much for your time, everyone.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.